And now we tried to make the boss, finish the boss fight. So let's first test what we have so far. We have the level, we have the damage, which is important for and we also have changed the layout, and we have the goal of the game, which brings you into the boss fight. However, the boss fight right now is only an enemy that I scale up, and I'm going to be using the enemy as a basis for the boss. So it will be like this, but with a little bit of added functionality to make it a proper boss. Right now, it works just like a normal enemy. So if I shoot it, it just dies and nothing happens. So it needs to die. You need to go to the next level, and it should have like a life and maybe faster speed to make it dangerous. Who knows? All that can be changed, of course. Let's see how much we can do to make this like a proper boss fight. Okay? That's the objective today. Changing this enemy into a proper boss fight. So the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to bring the level of the boss fight, which is level 2. Right now we have level 2, that's the boss fight. And in level 2 we of course have the normal level stuff, and we only have one enemy. And that enemy is the boss. However, that enemy is an instance of a scene, which is the enemy scene. So instead of being an instance of the enemy scene, the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to make it unique. We're not make it local, right? So it's no longer an instance of a scene, but it's now part of the level. And by making it local, that will let us change many of the nodes and stuff without changing enemies in general. Another thing that we're going to do is go to the script, which is down here, and we're going to make it unique. And we're going to go to the script, and we're going to choose it. It's going to be on save, so we're going to save it as the boss script. Let's just call it the boss script. Whoops, I completely lost the footage I had for when I made the boss, most of the functionality of the boss. So I'm going to go through a quick sort of recap of the TLDR of what we did. So let's go to the boss fight, and of course we have the boss fight. Right now it doesn't die in one hit. You need 5 hits to kill him, and he's a little bit faster. Was that a little bit more than the 5 hits? And that's all that happens. Oh, it's right. Right. So I'm going to go a little brief about all the different things we added. We still hadn't finished one thing, which was on the boss script. And that, of course, we have the change level code, but we didn't have the death timer because we added a death timer, of course, so that when it dies, it changed the level. But we haven't. And when I say that we haven't, what I mean is that I haven't. So when it dies, right? And here's the destroy animation. When it dies, you need to run the timer. And it's the death timer. The death timer. Dot start. So the death timer is 1 second. So now, when we get to the it doesn't do anything, is because let's see, the death timer is supposed to be 1 shot, not auto start. Did we grow the name right? Well, let's add a boolean to make sure that that is not trying to do over and over. The function equals true, and then of course we have to declare it first, but remember that I do things backward. And let's check it here. And then it's going to check that that is false. So this, there you go. Now I declare it. So it's going to check. So is going to check that it's not dead, and if health is below 0, then it's going to change that to true. So now it's not going to keep repeating the function over and over and starting the timer over and over. And hopefully this works. There you go. Now it works. But that timer goes too fast. That timer goes too fast. We need so that we can celebrate our victory. I know I say that I would, and I would make a TLDR, but I forgot about this part. I forgot that I had to finish it. Let's just put 3 seconds. So now, as I promised, we go with a TLDR of all the changes I make to the boss. Now that it's a proper boss fight, and he doesn't die in one hit, we can make it harder. There are many things we can make it, but now, of course, he dies, and then ahem, ahem. Did I make it 30 seconds? I think the problem is then. Let's check that animation. I think that animation is queuing free the enemy before we can send in the function. So let's go to destroy frame hit plane function queue free. Here it is. Let's remove the queue free animation, so it no longer, the boss no longer disappears before the timer is out. So that's an oversight. Of course, I didn't make the animation, so there was no way for me to know that it will queue free. You will remove the node from memory before it handled the function, because I didn't knew that it removed. Oh my god, it did it twice. It did it twice. Why did it did it twice? Why it did the animation twice? It's not looping here. Animation looping. Aha, destroy. And the function destroy. Let's check out the function destroy. We can always have another check here. Super dead. This is the super dead. The super dead check. Well, if super dead, then and here super dead equals true. But normally super dead equals false. Or equals false. Is the way the booleans are working right now is like doors, Right now they're open, but as things happen, they are closed, so that those things that happen don't repeat. They're like doors. Okay, you happen once, now you cannot happen again. No, it's completely. Then let's put that door elsewhere. Let's put that door, well, in the code. That particular door then needs to be in the code elsewhere. We make sure that it's false. Yeah, it's normally false. Then if now you have to check here if you are false. If you're false, then you can do it. I'm dying fine. I'm dying fine. So I had the the door on the wrong position, by the way. So it might not be. Hmm. Maybe I should make his hitbox bigger. And there we go. And there we go. So that was. And I'm not going to say that that was the problem because this code is still a little bit hacky, but it now works how it should. And like I said, what I did is that of course you had many on the original script you have many things happen at the same time, and it didn't matter of course because the original script doesn't have you trying to do things like change the level and make sure, you know, having the check for changing the level then made the problem that you have the function for the animation constantly being repeated because I remove the cue free from the animation, which is what stopped the animation from what stopped the node from constantly, because at the end of the animation you're cue free, so it doesn't matter. You can put the the function on process and keep doing it over and over because by the end of the animation you're going to remove the node from the tree, so it doesn't matter. But when I remove that, now it matters because now when it got to the end of the animation, it will repeat it itself because the process is constantly trying to run it. So what I did by adding these tools is pretty much, like I say, create doors. Once the first, of course, they are open. When they are false, it's like they are open. Right now, you can do whatever. So in the first case, I check for if it's not dead. Okay, okay, if you're not dead, then you are going to start the death process, and then I close that door so that you don't keep repeating doing the destroy function. But that didn't completely remove the problem because the animation kept going, because here, and I'm going to guess that this is the particular problem because this is what we're facing. It's pretty much telling that as long as you are in a state, keep doing the animation. That's pretty much what it says. You're a state, you're in this state, keep doing the animation. And in the case of death, of course, it could do the animation because, like I said, at the end of the animation, it will cue free, so it didn't matter. Just keep doing the animation because you're not going to repeat it. At the end, you're going to be removed from the tree. You're going to disappear from the scene. That's what removing from the tree means, that you're going to disappear from the scene. So whatever. But when I remove that, you will just check for, well, you're dead, so you should just keep dying. Yeah, that's pretty much, I put another door. The good question will be, of course, if the destroy function really needs to be behind the first door. This is the first door, right? Checking if you're dead for the first time. Right? So those are the two doors. The first one checks if you're dead, and the second one checks if you're super dead. That's like a second death door. And of course, maybe the destroy function doesn't really need to be here, because the main reason why I put the death function is because the timer, it kept starting the timer. So to make sure, because the process function is just going to keep doing the same thing. If you tell it to start a timer, the timer is never going to end, because the process function is going to keep repeating the start, right? This function, which starts over, so it keeps starting over the timer over every frame. That's why you needed this boolean to work as a door. Once I close this door, you cannot do this again. So you only need do it once. Now that I close the door here, you cannot do it again. Okay, now that door is closed. Don't do it again. So you go, because this is the function for pretty much destroying the, making it die, doing the death animation. It goes into this one, of course, and this one checks if you already done pretty much the animation, of course, because the first one you die but you haven't done the animation. So you die but you're not dead because you haven't done the animation. That's why I call it super dead, because when you're super dead is because not only did you die, not only did your health is 0, but you also did the animation. And of course, once you do the animation, then I close the second door, so you don't do the animation again. And that was the point of that code. So now, finally, after hitting my head into a wall over and over and over, we can do the TLDR of all the changes I made to the boss, now that we have a proper boss fight. And of course, last time when we were here, we didn't do anything to the boss except scale it. I think, did we scale it? We might have scaled it up, but that's the only thing we scaled it up. So it was just an enemy, a giant enemy. It no longer has the enemy script. As you can see, it says class name enemy character is now the boss. The boss class is the boss script. Most of it is the same, of course. We just did a couple of changes, and of course we also made it a class. It doesn't need to be a class, but we made it a class so that we could use it on the future. It's like maybe in another. I mean, I'm not going to use it, but if I were a developer of a game and this will be the game I will be doing, there is definitely interest in making a boss class, so that in the future when I'm making another boss, I can start from the class and have at least some functionality instead of starting from scratch every boss. So yeah, most of it is going to be very similar, except the things that we change to make it different from the normal enemy. The first thing that I will talk about what we change are the variables that we exported, and that could be more easily seen if we go to the inspector, right? We're on the inspector, right? So we have the exported variables here, like walk speed. If I go and add a normal enemy, and let's bring a normal enemy to compare them. So we now have a normal enemy. A normal enemy, of course, when you click it, it doesn't have an exported variable. So you cannot do anything with it. Everything is done through the script, which is fine. However, if you're going to have maybe different enemies, maybe you will want to have a couple things you can change, even if it's just the speed. But hey, that's fine. I definitely, and I will say that maybe we should make it even faster because it left a lot to be desired. And maybe it should have a little bit more health. I will say let's just have like 8. But maybe the invincible time we can get it down to like half a second. Now, what are these variables? Now, the next level, obviously, that's the self-explanatory. Is we have the next level on the boss, so that when it dies, it runs the next level code. Remember the next level code we wrote on the last on one of the last few scenes videos when we did the game scene and have the game change the level. Well, it's running that code, but with whatever scene you put here. So if you have another boss using this same script later in the game, and you can and when you beat it, you go into another level. Of course, you just put whatever level you need from the editor. That's that's the beauty of exporting variables. Of course, the walk speed is the speed at which it moves. Normally, if we look at the script, normally, of course, there is no exported any exported variable, but the walk speed is not even a variable. It's a constant. So it doesn't even change. You cannot even change it. But by making it a variable and exporting it, we can now change the speed. Health is something that we added completely because in the enemy, once it got hit by the bullet, it will just play this function. Just be destroyed. It will go straight to being destroyed. And that is because if we look at the bullet, we need to look at the bullets. No, the bullet. If we look at the bullet code, the bullet code has a body enter function that checks for bodies. Now, originally, it didn't have this code. I added to it. Originally, it was just this code. If the body is enemy, then play perform. I forget the run the destroy function on enemy on that enemy. So it will just run the destroy function. So it goes straight to destroying it if it touches it. So there is no health because we changed that. We added this function to the boss, to the bullet. If the body is a boss, then you look for the damage function. So that is probably the big difference between the enemy. Of course, if we were to look here, it goes straight to physics process, the already variables. But on the boss script, there's the already variables, there's the physics process, and there is all this code that I added, including the damage function. So the damage function now looks for an integer, right? It looks for an integer, which is going to be the amount of damage that you are going to do. And then if can damage, and that's a door. Remember when I was talking about doors? That's a boolean. It will check for the boolean can damage, and if it can damage, then it will first not let it damage anymore. Then it will remove the amount of health that we set here. Of course, this is set by the function. In this case, it will be the bullet function. And then, so you can have different types of bullet, and different types of bullet could do different types of damage. And then you have the imb timer. The imb timer is nothing but invincibility timer. That just makes the boss invincible, so that you don't hit it with one shot, because the function damage is going to be running whenever it touches the. So whenever the bullet is touching the boss, it's going to keep pinging damage, using the damage, running the damage function on the boss over and over and over and over every frame. So this makes sure because it makes sure that can damage is true. This makes sure that it's not constantly being damaged every frame. So the first thing is stop it from being damaged every frame. It still damages this frame because this code is still going to be done. And a timer will start, and the timer, when it ends, as can be seen here, when this timer ends, which is the invincibility timer, then can damage is true. So that is nothing. But if we look at the boss, the invisibility timer is nothing but when it gets hit, how much time is he going to be invincible, to make sure that it doesn't get damage, some high levels of damage just on one shot. And of course, that could be done more bigger, but that works for now. Of course, going back to the boss, now that we know how the boss get damage, how did it die? Because we remove instant death from getting shot. So how the boss is going to die? That's where we added the process. We could have done it in physics process, but that's why will we, it's unnecessary to have so much stuff on physics process. Like in physics process, you want the important stuff. This is more of menial, miscellaneous stuff. Why will you use it on physics process? So in the normal process, the vanilla weak sauce process function, we have the health check, and it's going to simply check if health is 0 or less than 0. The only reason why I have less than 0 is not something that will happen in this particular version, right? Because right now bullets only do 1 damage, but if bullets did more than 1 damage and you had 1 damage, then let's say it does 2 damage, then it will go into the negatives, because if it does 2 damage and you only have 1 health, then the result is -1. And that's why checks is more of a future proofing the code than making it work. It doesn't need it, but I like to have it there. And if this check is true, if this happens, if it's the health is 0 or less, then it performs the first check. And this is what we added to make this work. And then we run the death timer and the destroy function. The destroy function is the same function that we run from the enemy. However, we made a change in one of the animations that usually queue free, and we remove that, so it does no longer queue free. Of course, you already know that at this point because you should have seen. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to edit this video. I'm going to put all that first part of the video first and this second, but you either already know it or you're now seeing what happened. But yes, it does the death check, it runs the death timer. The death timer will then change the level, use the change level function, which is the same one we normally use, and we'll also destroy the enemy. So that in a nutshell, we'll have a complete boss in terms of functionality. Of course, it works the same as a normal enemy in terms of how it moves around. We added more speed, but besides that, it doesn't do anything new. But once you kill it, it changes the level, which is very important. Also, it doesn't die in one hit. There's a health system. So it's more like a proper boss fight. And of course, there are many ways in which we can make it much harder. I will even say, oh, well, that changes things. Well, that was funny. We increase the damage. But you're no match for that. Maybe, I mean, we increase the health. That might be too much health. That might be too much health. And of course it changed the level to the first level because we don't have any more levels. So it just goes back to the... And of course we could keep working and making different... I think it's funny that there's an enemy. I mean, it's not supposed to be there. That I only have it because in order to compare the two, I spawn an enemy so that we could compare the state of both. Also, another thing that I did is that I make the boss not be under an enemy's node, but just be under the level node. That way I could use the change level code without making any change. Because the boss is under level, so the parent of node is level, so when it changes the level, it can just erase the level through the boss itself. If it was under another node, like if I had another node, like enemy and then boss, we could have just repeated this one. once, like this, like this, like this. Boom. There you go. And now it can be under another node. Like platform. And it will still work. Because it will look for the parent of the parent. Oh my god. It's definitely much more threatening now. Because, oh my god. It's a good thing that we can jump on it. Because that sort of gives more options to the player. Oh my god. I was scared there. And it still works. Because now it is looking for the parent of the parent. So the parent is platforms and the parent of the parent is level. But I prefer to have it really on the same level of... And remove, we don't need the platforms. And remove this code. Of course, that's a preference, and for some people, they might be having a heart attack because they prefer things better organized. They will also have a heart attack for not using a different function for looking for the level and having better track of my nodes. And that's fine. Like I always say, like I made this from the point of view of someone new because I don't consider me a professional. Someone who's not a professional, how it will be? Well, you will do the things that work, but it gives a heart attack to a professional. And that is sort of the TLDR, not really much of a TLDR.